Morning, my name's Gaz Whelan and this is my Sundays Mondays stories. This week I'm actually in the Canadian wilderness. I'm about 4.5 hours northeast of Toronto. I'm in some, I'm not even no clue idea where I am, but I'm on a front porch, so there may be the odd car that goes past. Anyway, this week I think the year is 86, 87, you might be able to tell me, but it was a year we were invited to play support to Terry Hall's Colourfield. Terry Hall being a huge hero of ours, certainly mine, especially with the first band I ever saw live at Manchester Apollo when I was a young kid. And then the Fun Boy 3 had formed after the specials, where the band were all the band were huge favourites of. We used to play a track called Farmhouse Connection that we'd play over and over. It was always on our playlist. If you don't know it, go and check it out, it's an amazing tune. Anyway, we used to always meet at my folks' house because they lived in a bungalow on a corner, so there's plenty of places to park, and Derek Ryder would turn up with his sidekick Barry Seddon, who was his partner at work and his partner in a band. Him and Barry did everything. They loaded the equipment, they set the equipment up, they made sure everything worked, they did the sound, they did a lot, they were amazing. And without Derek, I've got to say, we never got out of the schoolroom, so we owed Derek everything. Anyway, they turned up at my folks' house and we were all sat inside ready to go. We'd all pooled together and bought our stash, our resin for the tour and some beers, and Derek and Barry had gone into my mum's house maybe to say goodbye or something, but as we was they were in the house and we were in the van, someone started firing air rifle pellets at the van, so we had to wind all the windows up and we were hostage in this van, and Derek and Barry came out and the person started firing at them, and it was apparent it was coming from the house across the street. It was a weird man who lived on his own with his mother, and she was supposed to be 93, but no one had seen her for about 10 years. So, and he used to leave the house every night at about midnight and return at 10:30 in the morning. So we presumed he's on a night shift. It could be something more nefarious, but that's what we led to believe. No one ever saw him. Just heard his voice like the Wizard of Oz, complaining behind the bushes. And a few weeks earlier, he tried to poison our Great Dane because it had a deep bark he didn't like. So my mum had been over, so he'd close his curtains and he wouldn't go answer the door or anything. So it was him firing the pellet gun at us. We needed to get off to the gig, or we were going to be late. Derek and Barry were trapped in the house and we were trapped in a van, so my mum called the police, and fair play to him because it was firearms. Within 5 minutes the police were there, but they surrounded the Salford van eye with us, and he was like, get out of the van, and they were trying to search us, and we were like, oh, we had all our stash on us. Luckily PD was in the front, we give it to him, and he was siphoning it out the door down a grid that I knew was there because I'd lost car keys down there, etc. and got rid of it all, but that was all our stash gone. We explained to the police and they went, oh, and then when they realised their error they went over to the house, but we'd lost our stash by then again. They came back about 5 minutes later, said he's not answering the door, got in the cars and just left, and that was that. So we just drove off, but we had a tour to do, we had a tour to do with no resin. We knew no one could lay it onto us because we were skinned, we didn't have any more money for anything else, and no one would lay it onto us because they all knew we were skinned. But Paul Ryder knew someone he'd worked with at the post at Manchester who would, but he was a bit dodgy and he sold other stuff as well, harder drugs, and he was always getting arrested, so it was a risk. And he also lived at a place called Ladywell Flats in Eccles, which is this renowned council flats that were really had a reputation. So we didn't really want to go down there, but we had no choice. So we goes down there and we get to the flats, and there's just an ice cream van parked up, so we park next to the ice cream van to try and be inconspicuous. And the bizarre thing about the ice cream van, I noticed that it's just adults in the queue. There's no one else, just adults in the queue, and it's winter. Anyway, Paul Ryder goes in with two other people, PD, and I can't remember who the third person was, just for security, and three of them go in. And whilst they're in, waiting about 5-10 minutes, and eventually come out, and I get the thumbs up of Paul Ryder as I see him coming down, and just as they're leaving the building, the police swoop around our van and the ice cream van. Second time in 15-20 minutes we've been surrounded by police cars. And the police are banging on the window. Derek calmly winds the window down, shows them the tour itinerary, shows them the equipment in the back, and said, we're musicians, we're just picking somebody up. Cop's not too sure, but he's like, okay. And as he's doing that, Paul Ryder sees what's going on, and so he doesn't get searched. He says to the cop, oh, you have to do a demo tape of our material. The cop starts laughing, they wander off, and we jump in the van. Close call, and we see him arrest the ice cream man. And they've got him out of the van, he's sat on the floor, he's handcuffed, and they've got video cassettes next to him, cartons of cigarettes, whiskey, vodka. I remember loads of Absolute vodka, frozen chips and peas, bizarre stuff. So we drive off, we give a wide berth and drive off. That's why he had the big queue. He's probably selling weed as well, who knows. Anyway, so we drive off and we're headed the first gigs to, I think it's Sheffield. So we get to Sheffield and we do the gig, and after the gig it goes down really well, which we're quite surprised, because in them days people either liked us, hated us, or just didn't know what the hell was going on. And Terry Hall and drummer Gary Dwyer had been a drummer in Tear Up X Rose, a big 6 foot massive probably 6'4" drummer who played with the Teardrop Explodes comes in. I think he ended up in Acton. I think he ended up in Brookside as a cop or something. Really good, lovely guy. And they came in, they were both talking to us, saying, you know, you've got a unique sound. I really, really enjoyed it. And we got really, we had a beer with him, had a cigarette, and he was great. Gig over. We've got to get to the next gig, which is Hull. Now we're not going to be able to go back to Manchester and get everyone together the next day to make the gig. So we realised we're going to have to stay in the van overnight. We've not got money to stay in a hotel. Now Barry, who was Derek's partner, he was always telling us stories about when he was with the Stones, and he used to bring his guitar with him. Never a guitar case, don't know if there's anything inside it. The Rolling Stones lips and tongue logo on it, which is not Mick Jagger, by the way. It's an Indian goddess. And he said, oh, he's been around the world with the Stones, done all the drugs with the Stones, done everything, seen and done it all. There's nothing but surprise, and we just thought he was bullshitting. But Barry was lovely. He used to call him the drumming dad. He used to kind of look after me a lot with the drums. I've been writing a book called All My Friends Are Junkies, which is about my experience in the Mondays, and I've nearly finished it. It'll be out early next year. But here's my description of Barry in the book, just to give you a clearer idea of what he looked like. Barry said he was a petite liff of a man in his mid-40s, but those years had clung to him with defiance, carving into deeply set wrinkles, illuminating years of experience and disappointment in the hurly-whirly world of entertainment. He was a proud owner and an impressive grasp of black hair perched in a Rolling Stones early 70s wig style that only managed to amplify his weathered complexion. He had the broadest Bolton accent that would put Fred Steeplejack Dimner to shame, and friendly eyes that would bring tears to any ardent kidnapper. He was the absolute image of Dustin Hoffman. In fact, if by modern science, if Mick Jagger and Dustin Hoffman could cross-pollinate an offspring, then Barry would be the resulting figure. I also mentioned a few times, but it fell on ears, that if Barry had chosen the path of a Dustin Hoffman impersonator, that he'd probably have had more success than in his rock and roll band, but I was probably insulting him and I didn't mean to. Anyway, back to the story. We decided to stop at a service station, I think somewhere around Leeds, for the night, and then we'd have the early drive to Hull the next morning. We pull in, we all have a big joint and smoke, and we all fall asleep in the minibus, and Barry Seddon is right behind me. Now, I'm not a great sleeper, and I woke up about 6 o'clock, 6:30 by noise and someone putting knees in me back, and I kind of half asleep, I kind of look around, and Barry's behind me, injecting himself. He's injecting himself. And I'm like, Christ almighty, he is the real deal. He's a musician, he's a junkie, he's a musician. He has toured the Stones, he has done drugs, and he's still doing him, he's still living a life. Christ, all them stories we laughed at and joked, and he's actually the real deal. Kept my mouth shut, everyone wakes up, didn't want to say anything. We get to Hull. We get to the Hull gig, and the gig goes down better than any gig we've done so far. The crowd loved it, really good reception. So we come off stage. As we've come off stage, we notice, we have a few drinks, and then Colourfield will go on, but notice their dressing room is facing ours with a slide door, and they've got tons of booze on their rider and stacks of cartons of silk cut cigarettes. Now all our lads smoked Benson Hedges. I don't think I smoked at the time, but they were still free cigarettes and we couldn't afford them. So we were like, can't help. So we took one carton and a couple of beers, and Derek Ryder went absolutely mad at us, absolutely mad, because he said, you're going to get caught and that's it. You're off the tour, stupid, it's a big chance you're going to get, and you're just throwing it back in their face. And he was right, of course, he was absolutely right, but we were desperate, we were skint. Anyway, we kind of, after a few cigs and drinks and the Colourfield finished, and they went back to their room and they were celebrating and drinking and talking. And we was waiting for it. Any moment the tour manager was going to come in and tell us we were off the tour. But Terry Hall and Gary Dwyer come in, and Gary Dwyer's like 6'4" and quite intimidating. And they come over and Terry says, why did you do it? And we were like, oh, so we all kind of put it out, and Gary Dwyer went, listen, just ask. And we went, what? And Terry Hall says, if you want some cigs and some booze, just ask, do you want some cigs on your rider? We'll give you a carton every night. We get 8 cans, you can have a carton. Just ask, you don't have to take them, we'll ask you. And we were just like, stunned, absolutely stunned. And it's like, if Terry Hall couldn't have gone up further in our estimation, you know. And we were like, all right, thanks, sorry. And he gives us an extra carton and went, hey, just have them. If you need any, just let us know and you can have them. And we're like, we're not kicked off the tour. And he went, no, of course not. Just ask, you can have them. And that's Terry Hall, absolute sweetheart. In fact, I remember a story. I'm digressing a little bit here, but I remember a story in 1990. I'd been out all night, the usual hacienda, to the kitchen, stayed up all night, hadn't slept. I'd gone to a United game, and I was outside Old Trafford on the forecourt with a couple of friends, and I was feeling rough because I hadn't slept all night. And of course someone offered me a spliff, so that'll sort you out, and I had it, and of course it didn't. It made me even worse. I was glassy eyed. I was like, you know, and this guy came up to me right close to me when I stood with my friends and started talking to me, and then after a minute he says, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I'm like, yeah. And there was this guy from Worsley who we used to call the Wasp, because he was a pest, a nuisance, always about, just buzzed, always, never stopped. And he was to spit an image of Terry Hall. And I thought it was him because he used to go to United as well. And I thought it was him, and I couldn't remember his name. Was it Chris or Ian? And I'm like, yeah, Chris, yeah. And I'm kind of pacifying him. It's obvious I'm pacifying him. So he turns on and goes, okay, no problem. And he walks away. As he gets about 6 feet away, I realise it's Terry Hall and not this Wasp. And I think, oh Christ, I've just planked Terry Hall. So I rush over to him like, Terry, I didn't recognise I've had a joint. And he was dead cool about it. No worries. But I'm thinking he thinks that I was trying to be Charlie Big Potatoes in front of my friends, and I wasn't. And every time I see him, I tell him the story. He goes, oh, I don't even remember it. He probably does, but you know, he's a darling. So never even mentioned it. Anyway, so back to the gig finished. So then they leave the room, we have a few drinks, and it's quieting down in the dressing room, and Derek and Barry leave. And I said to him, I've got something to tell you all. And he went, what? I went, Barry? And the band, all of us went, what? I went, he's the real deal. He has toured with the Stones, he's a proper junkie musician. What do you mean? I said, I looked behind this morning in the van, and he was injecting himself. I said, it's really freaked me out. And I said, I don't know whether to tell you all, but he's injecting it. And the whole room starts laughing. And I'm like, why are you laughing? What's funny? And Paul Ryder says, Gaz, you dickhead, it was insulin. Barry's a diabetic. And that was the first tour. So it was a successful tour in the end. And we remained friends with Terry Hall ever since. Anyway, that's the story from 86, 87. If you can tell me what year it was, 86, 87, because I'm not sure. It might have even been 85, no, it was 86, 87, I think. Let me know in the comments and any questions. Okay, until next time.